Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. It's now time for a little special edition of Panic or Purchase, where we talk about some guys that you could be buying into or maybe being a little bit concerned about for the rest of the season. We're going to sort of spin it around the bust team so far for 2022 as we're at the midway point of the NFL season. So the fantasy bust so far. We'll show you the list of the players here, and we're doing it based on the CBSSports.com average draft position. So this is the team that has wrecked your fantasy team so far, these players, with the hope that some of them could turn it around. As you see here, Brady, we're doing it based, again, on the average draft position. So Brady was the highest drafted quarterback who's been the worst, ahead of Aaron Rodgers, for example. Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, you see first-round picks and been largely disappointing. Keenan Allen, you could say, okay, injury-related, but still he's not helped your fantasy team. DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, there's some debate, I'm sure, from Heath. Should it be DJ Moore or Cortland Sutton? But we put DJ Moore on the list. Kyle Pitts, easy tight end there. And James Conner as a flex, a guy you took in the second round who has certainly not delivered second-round value. So let's talk about a few of these situations. We'll start with Tom Brady. So, Adam, I'll ask you this first. Brady's not been a consistently good fantasy performer. Only one game with multiple touchdowns, only 2 games over 19 fantasy points. It seemed like he got going at the end of the game against the Rams. I love the setup for him against Seattle. Rest of season, can Tom Brady reward fantasy managers?
I don't know. I don't think he's going to be what we hoped he would be. I think he's really tied to Chris Godwin. He's getting almost nothing from Chris Godwin, and just don't think Chris Godwin is back to himself. And I can't sit here and say it's definitely going to happen, but that's the key. You know, I think the weapons aren't good. I've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of flack for saying that, but I'm sorry. No Gronkowski, and Brady's been a mess in the red zone. No running game. I think that's a big deal. They cannot move the ball consistently because they can't run the ball. I think they're in too many third down and obvious passing situations. I'd like to see them commit a little bit more to the run. I guess from a fantasy standpoint, I bought low on Brady last week. It didn't work. I'm not giving up hope. Of all the players on this list, I have the most hope for Tom Brady to turn things around, but I just don't see him having this amazing year anymore because I think the weapons are just really lacking, and he's one injury away to Godwin or Evans to being droppable, I think.
That's fair. I do think this is going to be a big week against the Seahawks. I think this is actually be a big week for Chris Godwin against the Seahawks. All right, let's talk about the running backs here, Heath. You got Taylor, Najee, and James Conner. Taylor's still dealing with the ankle injury. Najee might get benched for Jaylen Warren. And James Conner, we know, just came back after an extended absence with the rib injury. But he had to pick one of these running backs. You got to trade for one of them. You could offer a ham sandwich. Which one do you think has the most chance to reward you down the stretch?
Relative to what I think it would cost, I would probably bet on Conner. But if I had to just pick one and the cost is the same for all three, then I have more hope for Jonathan Taylor. If he could get back to being 100%, he is the type of running back who can overcome a bad offense, who can overcome even some bad offensive line play, and just make things happen on his own. So Taylor would be the one that I have the most hope for. But I think Conner, because he's cheaper and is so involved in the passing game and is definitely the short yardage back, could maybe provide more value for what he would cost you.
Offensive line concerns in Arizona as well, and they still have their bye week coming up. Same with the Colts, and we'll see what happens with Jeff Saturday leading the charge now, see if that changes anything. In terms of the wide receivers here, so Keenan Allen, we don't know when he's going to play, dealing with the hamstring injury. DJ Moore has started to show some signs of life, so he's easily, I think, the safest of the three. And then Allen Robinson, we know, has been disappointing. So is it just DJ Moore or bust with these trio of wide receivers here rest of season if you had to pick one?
No. First of all, Allen Robinson, no interest at all. More modest interest, and he belongs on this list because when he finally had that first good game, he was started in 27% of leagues. Everybody gave up on him, except for 27% of his managers. I actually think Keenan Allen will be better than DJ Moore on a per-game basis. Of course, I don't know when that game is going to start, but if you told me in 2 weeks Keenan Allen would be back, I would take him over DJ Moore. I do not expect consistent production from DJ Moore.
All right, so we'll see what happens again. They could be switching their quarterback at some point. P.J. Walker starting on Thursday, but Sam Darnold is eligible to play. Maybe that changes the fate for DJ Moore rest of season. Keenan Allen just has to stay healthy at this point, and we'll see what he can do. In terms of Kyle Pitts, we've seen some flashes lately. Week 8 against the Panthers, who he plays this week. He had his best game of his career from a fantasy perspective. Can he start to put together, string together consistent performances enough that we feel comfortable starting him week in, week out?
I've got some optimism. He's got 16 targets over the last 2 weeks. Marcus Mariota said again this week that he has to do a better job of getting the ball to Kyle Pitts. It's still an awful situation. They're going to throw 20-25 passes. Mariota's not been accurate, and Pitts gets too much attention. But I do have some hope that he could sneak into the back half of the top 10 tight ends rest of season. I have zero hope that he's going to justify the tight end 3 draft capital.